Happy Friday and welcome back to our podcast conversation entitled Seasons. As we find ourselves this week having a conversation about the season of being stretched. Some of us know what's that like because the kids are home from school and that's where we find ourselves just in our family rhythm. But for others of us, so we may be in a season personally or professionally or inside our relationships with people where life is asking a lot of you. Maybe it just feels overwhelming and you find yourself in a season, however long it's going to be, of being stretched. And it's there in those times of being stretched that we know it's going to feel a certain way and life might have something to accomplish in us or teach us. That's what we've talked about this week. But it's also really important, and perhaps most important, that we find God with us in the season. Finding God with you inside a season of being stretched can be difficult because either we interpret or erroneously believe that whenever we're with God, it's supposed to feel a certain way. Maybe we have this imagination or this image of feeling God is supposed to feel peaceful, or being with God is supposed to be easy. Maybe we haven't had the experience of God being with us in the darkness or in the overwhelm. Finding God with you in a season of being stretched is not going to necessarily take away the stretch, but it will take away the isolation or the fatigue of being alone in the feeling of being stretched. If we're going to find God with us in a season of being stretched, we have to be honest about how we feel. Does it feel overwhelming? And if so, how do we feel about that? Are we resentful that we are where we are? Or do we resent the fact that we have to face the things we're facing? Or do we feel inadequate with everything that's on our plate? Or do we feel trapped and we're never going to get out? Whatever the emotions are, it's often there that God is going to be with us. I'll share with you a personal story. I was in a season of being stretched and I was asking God, where are you? And I was trying to talk to God about this or that, and I didn't hear anything for weeks. And it just further intensified the resentment that I had in that season of my life. And I remember being in the chapel one day, and I just kind of threw my hands up, you might say, and said, all right, God, if you don't want to talk about what I want to talk about, let's talk about whatever you want to talk about. And immediately I heard the Lord say, I want to talk about your anger. And I remember saying to God, I'm not angry. And I just heard the laughter of the Lord back to my very passive-aggressive, anger-filled comment that I was not angry. You see, I wanted to talk about all these other things, and God's silence was actually drawing me into a deeper conversation with what he really wanted to talk about was my heart. If we're going to find God with us, it's important that we have the courage to bring to God the real things that really need to be talked about, because that's where we're going to find him. We're going to find him inside the reality of our hearts and inside the reality of how we feel about where we are. That requires that we have to know what's going on. We have to pay attention to what's going on, and we have to be honest about what's going on. And so my encouragement to you, if you're in a season of being stretched, is just to know you're not alone. And if we take the time to peer inside our hearts and to ask God, where are you? Not only will we find him with us, but we'll find him with us, giving us direction and I think freedom and peace in the very things that are most important that we bring into the relationship. For your homework today, again, as we have all week long, how do you feel about where you are in life right now? And if you're in a season of being stretched, what's really cooking inside? What are the emotions, and what do you really need to be in conversation with the Lord about? I want to give you some actual practical help today too. If you need some help knowing exactly how to pray and what to pray with, maybe check out Psalm 139, again in the book of Psalms in the Old Testament. Psalm 139. Read those first 16 verses, Psalm 139, 1 to 16. That's your homework for today. Just trust that God's with you in the midst of it. Hope you have a great weekend. Tomorrow, what we're going to do is we're going to wrap up the week and actually look ahead to the next week, knowing that God has more in store for us, no matter what season we find ourselves in. Know that the Lord is with you. Looking forward to our conversation tomorrow. Enjoy the weekend, and God bless you.